Hi, Coach Bob here to talk about shoutouts. One of the 6 habits of a great effing visionary is to fanatically schedule. And one of the things to fanatically schedule is for the visionary to do biz dev. We need to grow our business. We need to expand our customer base. So for me as a visionary, if I just try to fit it in and make calls when I'm in the car and then not following up, that is not productive. And personally, I don't like to sell. So often I'll avoid it, and yet if I fanatically schedule biz dev, and I call them shout out sessions, it's an activity that I'm great at and love. And so in the form of delegate and elevate, that is something that at a place I need to be and I like being. So, but if I don't schedule it, I don't do it. So what is a shout out session? A shout out session is biz dev, and what I do is I have my assistant schedule 2 times a week a 90-minute shout out session, and we found that visionaries can be on and high for about 90 minutes, and then we often will need to regroup. So to schedule 90 minutes, and then what I do is I take from my list of my top 40 relationships, and what we found is I can't manage more than 40 relationships. And as Dan Sullivan, I learned from him years ago, is to have my top 20. So what are my 20 biggest relationships, and have a list for those. And then what's my farm club, my next 20 that I want to get to become either my top 20 or move them out. And if someone's on the farm club for more than 2 quarters, they're not a top 40. So I found that in the past, I would just be calling, oh, I should call Fred, and oh, what about Mary? And yet, if I'm not focused on the ones that matter most, then they aren't gonna grow. So what are the top 40 relationships? They're big clients, big prospects, big connectors, and then especially all 40 need to be in my target market or connected to my target market. So demographic, geographic, psychographic. I can get people excited, but if I'm gonna get people excited outside my target market, that's not doing me a whole lot of good. So I've got my 40 top relationships. As I'm sitting down for my 90-minute session, I list out 10 of those that I'm just gonna do a shout out to. And a shout out is a phone call or a text. So I've got 10 people listed out. Then I get excited. I like to have a headset and I like to be moving around, so it might be in my session room or in my game room at home, just somewhere, because I like to move. I personally need a whiteboard, so I list out my top 10. I call, I text, and usually I get a hold of maybe one. So then, but as I'm calling those people, I'm thinking of other people to call. So I might call them, and then people call me back, text me back, and what is the goal? It's to have a great conversation. I'm trying to develop big relationships, and so if I'm calling to sell, I don't like it and they don't like it. But if I call and say, hey Chris, how are you doing? I was thinking about you, and that's all I'm looking for. They usually have a lot to talk about, and it's usually when I think of someone to call, they say, hey, I was just thinking about you, and that's when I respond and say, that's why I'm calling. And to tap into that magic, and if someone comes into our head, let's call them. So then as I'm talking, they often will say, hey, how are things with you? And it's like, oh, I've got this new service, or this is working really well, or whatever it might be. And we're building trust, we're building that relationship. And very often, one of those people will say, hey, have you thought about calling so-and-so? Or, you know what, I should do this. So then, to ask, what can I do for you? Not what can you do for me? So then the next thing is to make sure that I list out the follow-ups. It might be a book I recommend. It might be someone to introduce them to, a thought, a blog idea may come up. And then when I'm done with my shout-out session, I do an audio. And so a quick recording to say, these are all the people that I connected with and next steps. Then my assistant will update what I call my focus page. That's where I keep track of my top 40 relationships. And then we follow up. Because too often I have a great conversation and then I don't follow up, and that's a drag. So shout outs have been a great thing for me to measure. It's on our scorecard. So I find that as I do 2 90-minute shout out sessions and schedule 10 for each, I on average will actually connect with probably 40 or 50 different people. And that's my biz dev. And it's stuff that, ooh, I don't want to sell, but I actually want to have great relationships and have great conversations. So that's the shout out session. So as a visionary, that is a huge opportunity for us to 10x our company, have fun, grow our business, and enjoy our day. I'm Coach Bob. Enjoy your shout out sessions. Peace.